I'm speaking to Marvin Burdine. Marvin, where were you when World War II started?
I was in Pulaski County,
In Kentucky.
Somerset area.
Yeah, down around Somerset.
Yeah.
And you decided to join the service. Why did you pick the Marines?
Well, they picked me. I was just up for draft, and they pulled me out of the line, me and another guy, and I thought, oh boy, I'm out of here. You know, I'm not going to have to go anywhere. And then they said, how would you like to go to the Marines?
So that was your choice.
That was a shock.
Where had you, after you heard that you were in the draft, of course, and you were drafted,
yeah.
Did you go to another service first?
No. I registered for the draft when I was 18, still in high school. And then and my folks tried to keep me out as hard as they could, and
Yes,
I kept arguing, and they let me go then when I was 19.
And so, do you remember where you entered the service? What town you
Louisville.
were? In Louisville.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and where did you have your boot camp?
At San Diego.
Well, that wasn't all bad, was it?
No, pretty good country.
Now, when was that? Was that early in the war?
That was 1944.
So when you went into
early 1944.
When you went in the Marines.
Right.
So you were 19 years old and just out of boot camp. What happened after boot camp?
After boot camp, I was sent up to Camp Pendleton at Oceanside, just north of San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
and underwent considerable training there.
And you knew they were doing a lot of island hopping, so you assumed you would be part of some amphibious assault?
We assumed that, yes.
And
we didn't know where, but we figured something.
Is that what you trained for, Marvin?
Yes, we did train. Much of our training, as it turned out, was specific for an Iwo Jima type of terrain, and with even some cliff scaling and things that we thought we might need to do in connection with Mount Suribachi, probably.
But of course,
we didn't know that.
You didn't know anything about anything called Iwo Jima or Mount Suribachi at that time.
Right.
That's right.
That's correct.
Now, when you shipped over, where did you leave from?
When we went to Iwo.
No, when you first left.
We left from the San Diego area and went to Hilo, Hawaii.
Hilo, Hawaii must have looked like paradise.
It did. It did. Those waterfalls along the coast coming in from the sea is one of the most beautiful things I had seen up to that time.
Now, did you spend much time in Hilo?
No, we just boarded a small railway train, one of those narrow gauge type things, and I recall trading a few comic books for an extra banana or two that the kids would bring over.
That's great.
We had a pretty good bartering thing going there for a while.
So you get some fresh fruit out of them, some pineapples and bananas. Huh?
That's right. So that was when we were loading, I guess, and we soon chugged on up to Camp Tarawa.
There you go.
And it was actually what I'm trying to get at. It was on the Parker Ranch.
Oh, yes.
What had been the Parker Ranch.
That huge cattle ranch.
Yes. I guess the second biggest one in the world.
Yeah, right after the King Ranch. I've heard that, too.
I think so.
I've heard the same thing. Now, how long did you stay there?
We stayed there, I guess, we left the States around August. I don't recall exactly when we got into Hilo, but we were there until around January 5th of 45 when we shipped out then to go to Iwo.
Now, was all of that time more training?
More training.
Okay, so you didn't get to go over to Honolulu or anything like that, huh?
No, certainly didn't. I didn't get anywhere. And there was, that cattle ranch was an interesting place. There was a big grasslands, of course, naturally for cattle, you'd have to have that. But then there was a desert right below it and a rainforest above it. And so we trained in that desert quite a bit. It was very sandy, and of course that was related to getting us ready for Iwo Jima too.
Of course, although you had no way of knowing that.
I didn't know that either. No.
Of course not.
No.
The foot soldier never, or the Marine never knows anything, does he?
He doesn't know a thing. He just knows to hit the beach, I guess.
That's right. Now, what rank were you by now? Private?
I was a PFC by that time.
Okay, and your designation was rifleman, right?
Actually, everybody is proficient in the use of a rifle, but they made me a wireman. I was a very good shot, one of those Kentucky squirrel hunter shots. But you know what they would do? They give you something else to do. So they made a wireman. So I strung a wire for telephone communications between the company's CP and one of the first platoon.
From what I've seen in some accounts, that was not the safest job to have in the Marines.
Was never said to be. The only thing I could say for it was that perhaps at least part of the time you're not right on the front line and you're not the first one that's heading out there toward the enemy, but you're coming along stringing the wire at a little bit slower pace as your unit is attacking. And so you're bringing up the rear just a little bit, and that may have some advantages in some cases.
But I'm sure those advantages were very well hidden when you got to Iwo Jima.
It was pretty well. That's right.
Now, when you did the convoy in which you found yourself, did you go directly from Hilo to Iwo Jima?
I think we rendezvoused at Saipan. We transferred from the ships that we were on, transport ships, to the landing vehicles. We went aboard LSTs there, and then went from there on to Iwo on those ships.
I've heard that LSTs are not a nice ride.
No, they are not.
Could you describe that? They like to roll a lot.
They like to roll considerably, and I had quite a shaky experience when we were boarding the LST. We went up the side of the ship on those cargo nets or rope ladders. I think it was a ladder. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember exactly, but you would wait until your boat swung up to its highest level, and then you would reach and get hold of the ladder and get on it. Well, I got on the ladder. I reached for it as the boat was going down, and I didn't time it exactly right. And my feet slipped off of the rung. So I'm hanging here with my feet down and legs down, and this boat is coming back up, and oftentimes they bang into the side of the ship when they get up to the top. So that was kind of scary.
But you got your feet out of the way?
I got my feet up.
And of course you had full field pack, I'm sure.
I had everything.
Okay, so you got on the LST anyway.
Yeah, right.
Safely. When you went to Iwo, were you transferred then to smaller boats like Higgins boats or something like that?
No, the LSTs have that's the landing ship tank.
Uh-huh.
So they have in their holds the Amtraks. So all we had to do is go down below and get aboard the Amtraks, and then the ramp would lower and they'd go out of the LST into the water.
Tell me, did you and your unit land on day one, on D-Day?
Oh, yes. We were in the 10th wave.
And the 10th wave, if my memory serves me correctly, got it a little tougher than the earlier ones because...
Some of the earlier waves, they thought it was going to be a cakewalk at first. But by the time we got in, they had learned that was not the case, and it was hot going by the time we got in there. But there was a time. Apparently, the Japanese were waiting until a good many people were ashore so they could open up and do a lot of damage.
Have better targets, huh?
Yes, right.
I know it's difficult probably to recapture now, but can you remember how you felt when that ramp went down?
Let me tell you about that. I do not remember the ramp going down. Our Amtrak didn't quite make it to shore. And for whatever reason, I don't remember exactly what, but I had to go over the side of the thing. And I was carrying this roll of wire, phone wire, probably 25 pound, 30, I'm not sure what. And so when I hit the water and hit the ground under the water, I was off balance, and I just went in head over heels,
In the water?
In the water. If the water had been deeper, I could well have drowned. Many men did drown under certain circumstances like that. But I did get on my feet and managed to get out, to wade out. But the problem was that my unit had already gone, and my platoon was gone. I didn't know where they were.
What do you do in a case like that?
You're lost. I was lost all that day. I don't know whether there was not a good review of the site where we were to assemble. There was supposed to be, according to the literature I've read, an assembly point where we were supposed to get together after we got off of the Amtrak and assemble there. But I did not know where that was. I guess I was depending on staying with the guys, in other words.
Sure.
I wasn't depending on being left behind. as it turned out. So that was an error on somebody's part, maybe mine. But I was lost all that day. I finally caught up with the CP, finally found the company command post late in the day.
Now, what happened during that whole day? That's interesting to me. Did you attach yourself to other troops?
No, I was just a loner.
You just meandered.
I just meandered, and of course, every Marine looks like every other Marine. You can understand that.
Yes.
And all you can see is helmets and all the gear, and so you had to get close to see who anybody was. So all that day I was inquiring here and there, does anybody know anything about Company E of the 28th Marines, And every time I'd get a chance to ask that, I would, and most of the time they had not the foggiest idea.
How long did you spend on Iwo?
D plus 22.
22
the morning
days.
of the 23rd day is when I got hit.
We'll get to that in just a moment. In the meantime, you finally did catch up the evening of D-Day.
That's correct, as best I can remember. Even some of that gets foggy, but I'm sure I didn't spend the night. I'm pretty sure I didn't spend a night alone. I think I spent the night with the company group, and for some reason or another, the captain chose, or somebody chose, to keep me there overnight and let me roll out some wire in the morning rather than to take out wire that evening. My platoon was forward,
Sure.
300 or 400 yards or so.
And so you didn't have to at least spend that first night stringing wire.
That first night I didn't have to lay any wire, yeah.
But you laid a lot of wire thereafter, huh?
Yeah, thereafter I laid a lot of wire.
When you were moving forward, were you, I'm trying to remember the configuration of Iwo, and I know some headed toward Suribachi and some headed toward the other end of the island.
Right.
Which direction were you all going?
We were headed toward Suribachi. Actually, our two battalions, the 1st Battalion and 2nd Battalions, landed one after the other. Our 1st Battalion landed in front of us, and they cut straight across the island. They cut it in two. We came in behind them, and then we swung left to face Suribachi, and when they got across to the other side, they swung left to face Suribachi. So we were two battalions lined up side by side to attack Suribachi at that point.
One of the nastiest fights in all of the South Pacific.
That's what they say.
Well, if my statistics are correct, there were more wounded and killed Marines at Iwo Jima than all of the rest of the South Pacific battles put together.
I think that's right.
And that's what you were in the middle of in, what was that, February of...
February 19th, my mother's birthday. She got a great birthday present.
Yes, she did, didn't she? Well, as it turned out, she did, because you did survive it at any rate.
Yeah.
So many kids didn't.
Yeah.
Well, you were, and the first thing that anybody would want to know about Iwo Jima is, did you see any part of that flag raising?
I didn't, Nick. I didn't see anything. We, 2nd Platoon, members of the 2nd Platoon were members of the 3rd Platoon were the ones who went up the side of the mountain and raised flag number 1. You're aware that there were two flags?
Absolutely. The first, the small one, and then the larger one.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, subsequent to that, some members of our 2nd Platoon went up, 3 or 4 guys, and it turned out that they were the ones who raised the 2nd flag, and they got all the glory.
Sure.
Naturally, and the 3rd Platoon was always a little miffed because of they didn't take that lightly.
They raised the first one and got no glory at all.
That's right. And my platoon, I was in the 1st, and we were, if my thinking is right, and I've never gone to great lengths to check these things out, but I think we were doing a patrol along the eastern flank of the mountain, at the base of it, when all of the flag raising things were happening. I don't recall hearing any of that yelling that was supposed to have occurred when the flag went up. We were doing this patrol. We didn't encounter any enemy, but that's what I think. That's what we were doing, and we were so close to the mountain that you couldn't see the top of it.
Now, those fellows who raised the flags, you say they were in the 3rd and the 2nd platoons. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, I know that you get pretty tightly knit in your companies and your platoons, and
yes, you do.
And I was wondering if you knew any of the men who were there when the flag was raised.
Oh, I knew all of them.
Did you?
All of the members of a company know each other pretty well. Of course, you know some guys a lot better than others,
Sure.
but you know everybody. Now, when it gets beyond the company, when you get to the battalion level, the other companies even, you're likely not to know much about them. But the members of a company you know well. So I knew all of these guys real well. In fact, I ran a foot race with Green Gagnon one time.
And who won?
And he was, I'd like to be able to say that I did, but he beat me.
He did. All right. So he beat you twice. He beat you to the top of the mountain.
Exactly.
I know it was, nobody knew that historic moment had occurred when it occurred.
No.
Not until that picture came out much later.
No.
By the time it did come out, of course, some of the people there had already lost their lives, hadn't they?
Yes. Southley was dead, and Strength was dead, and Block was dead.
Three of them were
Three
gone.
of them had lost their lives, that's right.
And did the remaining ones, did you ever see them after they had become famous?
No, I never did see Hayes or Bradley, because when I was hit, I was went by way of a hospital ship first down to Guam and then to San Diego to the Naval Hospital there, and never did my path cross with any of those guys.
Ira Hayes, of course, they did a movie about him and about the problems that he encountered afterwards.
Right.
Were there very many Native Americans in your platoons?
I remember only two, Ira Hayes and I'm afraid that I can't give you the name of the other one offhand, but there was at least one other one there.
Now let's get to your personal story. You're up at D plus 23, and so far you're unscathed, huh?
Yeah. I've had a lot of close calls, but so far I'm unscathed. That's right.
But this is one tough war on Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
This is by now your platoons are decimated.
They are, and they're ragamuffins. They're exhausted. They've got that what they call a 1,000-yard stare in their eyes, or so they say. And I recall just a day or two before I was hit, being back at the command post and talking to the top sergeant back there and beating my gums tremendously about the fact that we were getting no help from any other units. And there was an Army unit down there ready to take over and garrison the place as soon as we left. And, of course, I was burning because there were lots of fresh men available, and we were just shot.
You had gone, D plus 22 gone away. Now, what do you remember about when you were hit?
Maybe, I'm not sure we did anything wrong. We were just, on that morning, we were getting ready to start our attack, which simply meant we would get up and start walking forward, basically. And until somebody shot at us, and at which time we would have to be pinned down or take cover and assess the situation. We stepped out of the little ravine where we had spent the night. We were the front line, and my platoon, of course, I usually stayed close to the platoon leader, whoever he might be, with the telephone. And he was in front of me, you're not supposed to ever line up as a general rule. Mm-hmm. But as I recall, I was pretty much walking behind him, directly behind him, and the shot came from behind. There was, nothing had happened up until that point. There was one shot, and right through my back, missed my spine just by a hair, and, blew out a big hole in my chest. And I just fell backward and lay there for a moment or two, a minute, I don't know how long, and decided I wasn't dead, but I thought I was.
Did you think you were gone?
I thought I was gone. And even, you've seen chickens with, when they're killed, or animals when they're killed, their legs kick.
Yes.
And I had seen a few Marines die and their legs kicked, and I looked down and my legs were kicking. So,
wow.
I figured that was it, But that passed a little after a bit, and I got up and crawled toward the sergeant. At that time, our platoon leader was a sergeant. Everybody else had already been shot off. We were like 16 people in the platoon at that time, give or take 2 or 3. And so I started crawling, and he had darted back into the ravine to take cover, and he was waiting there. He was not coming out to help me, but he was hoping I would get to him. And so I crawled a ways, and then I thought, well, this is too slow, so I got up and walked.
You got up and walked with a hole in your chest?
Yes, I did. And as I'm approaching him, though, I said, it's getting dark. And he said, I know, but you keep coming. And he caught me, and I passed out.
They got you to the evacuation?
One other, I woke up at some point, regained consciousness, and I was on a stretcher being carried. The next time I woke up, seemed like was in the morning. They had done some kind of surgery on me. The guy said, there were 2 of you in here last night, and he said, we thought you needed help first, and the other guy died while you were getting it. And
so there was another choice, huh?
Yeah.
My goodness.
And then after that, I woke up being, those swing hoists on ship that they load things with.
You bet.
I was on one of them being hoisted aboard the hospital ship. And
did that head right back to the States?
No, it went to Guam.
We went to Guam.
We went to Guam. And I woke up one time on the trip to Guam, and I don't know how long I was there before I woke. Came around.
How long were you in the hospital all told?
10 months.
And how many operations did that entail?
They found that at first they didn't find it, but they found that gunshot wound destroyed my right kidney and some liver. And that was found after I got back to the States, and they removed the remainder of the mangled kidney, I guess. And then I had a stone formed in the other kidney before I got out of
nice.
San Diego.
So all you need is a kidney stone on top of everything else.
Yeah, I got a bunch of them.
Oh, Lord.
Well, I'm telling you all these sad stories.
No, there's no justice. But the point is, you got back and got on your feet. When were you separated from the service then?
In 1946, along about January 18th, I think.
And when you left, you had left from Pulaski County, as you say. When you went home, where'd you go?
Back to Pulaski County.
And did you stay there a long time?
I went back to high school. I was in my senior year when I left.
Yes.
So I liked a little finishing high school. I finished that. And then I stayed home until I went to college to Eastern State, Kentucky State. So I was home for quite a long while. What
business did you get in afterwards, Mr. Burdine?
I taught. I was a teacher, and believe it or not, I spent 14 years in your hometown.
Maysville, Kentucky.
Exactly.
Good town. That's a good town. I hope
taught up on the hill at Maysville Community College.
Well, I hope they treated you well.
They did.
Well, it's an honor to have had you in our hometown.
Thank you.
In the meantime, sir, it's interesting how many of those who served in World War II, and particularly in combat, ended up being teachers. Is
that right?
Yes, it's interesting how many we've talked to who ended up, even if they stayed in for a while, when they got out, they became teachers. I'm interested in finding that out.
Yeah, well, that's curious.
Now,
they had that GI Bill, which got them into college. A lot of guys went to college who probably never would have gone.
Never would have
not had that.
Never in the world, including 2 uncles of mine. No question about that.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Burdine, are you now retired from teaching?
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, I can't tell you how much we appreciate your talking to us today, and I must also, if I may, just say something that probably has been said to you before, but not by me. Thanks very much for your service.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
So long.
Bye-bye now.
In the company of heroes. Americans at war.
I had seen a few Marines die and their legs kicked, and I looked down and my legs were kicking.
Marvin Burdine became a Marine even before he graduated from high school. After training, his first combat was on the black sand of a place called Iwo Jima.
We were in the 10th wave, but by the time we got in, it was hot. But there was a time Apparently, the Japanese were waiting until a good many people were ashore so they could open up and do a lot of damage.
I know it's difficult probably to recapture now, but can you remember how you felt when that ramp went down?
I do not remember the ramp going down. Our Amtrak didn't quite make it to shore. And for whatever reason, I don't remember exactly what, but I had to go over the side of the thing. And I was carrying this roll of wire. So when I hit the ground under the water, I was off balance, and I just went in head over heels, But I did get on my feet and managed to get out, but the problem was that my unit had already gone. I was lost all that day.
The Marines who raised the famous flag on Mount Suribachi were in Marvin Burdine's platoon.
Well, I knew all of these guys real well. In fact, I ran a foot race with Green Gagnon one time.
And who won?
And he was, I'd like to be able to say that I did, but he beat me.
Nobody knew that historic moment had occurred when it occurred.
No.
Not until that picture came out much later.
No.
By the time it did come out, of course, some of the people there had already lost their lives, hadn't
Oh,
they?
yes. Southleigh was dead, and Strength was dead, and Block was dead.
Did the remaining ones, did you ever see them after they had become famous?
No, I never did see Hayes or Bradley. Never did my path cross with any of those guys.
Did you see any part of that flag racing?
I didn't see anything. My platoon, we were doing a patrol along the eastern flank of the mountain, at the base of it, when all of the flag raising things were happening. And we were so close to the mountain that you couldn't see the top of it.
What do you remember about when you were hit?
That morning, we were getting ready to attack. We stepped out of the little ravine where we had spent the night, and the shot came from behind. And I just fell backward and lay there for a moment or two, a minute, I don't know how long, and decided I wasn't dead. Figured that was it, The next time I woke up, seemed like it was in the morning. They had done some kind of surgery on me. The guy said, "There were two of you in here last night," and he said, "We thought you needed help first, and the other guy died while you were getting it."
How long were you in the hospital all told?
10 months.
And after all of that, what did Marvin Burdine do?
I went back to high school.
This is Nick Clooney, in the company of heroes.